If you keep calling this perfectionism, there's a good chance it's actually a safety pattern. You work hard, finish things, hold everything together, and still feel behind. So the real problem isn't laziness or poor standards. It's that enough never lands in your body. Most people read this as ambition that went too far. You care a lot. You have high standards. You want things done properly. That reading makes sense. From the outside, you look disciplined. Effort can feel less like choice and more like prevention. Another common frame is low self-esteem. You must secretly dislike yourself, so you chase gold stars forever. Sometimes there's truth in that, but shame gets worse when the whole pattern is reduced to confidence, because you may feel competent and still carry a body that never receives completion. Psychology has a few ways of naming pieces of this. In polyvagal theory, Stephen Porges describes how the nervous system tracks cues of safety and danger. For some people, productivity becomes one of those cues. Doing more can briefly create the feeling that things are under control. Elaine Aron's work on high sensitivity processing also matters here. If you process more deeply, you often notice more variables, more possible mistakes, more downstream consequences. That wider intake can create thoughtful work. It can also make the finish line keep moving as new risks keep appearing. Attachment system regulation helps explain the emotional charge. Researchers like Peter Fonagy and Alan Shore have written about how early relationships shape self-regulation. If usefulness, competence, or emotional steadiness once protected connection, your body may keep linking performance with belonging, long after the original setting has changed. So the pattern often starts with a simple equation. If you do enough, you stay safe. If you stay useful, conflict lowers. If you anticipate needs, disappointment may not hit as hard. Over time, effort stops being just effort. It becomes a way to manage uncertainty. That's why completion can feel strangely flat. But your system stays scanning. It starts checking for the next loose thread, the next possible criticism, the next way things could slide. Relief barely arrives before vigilance replaces it. Then your mind calls that responsibility. There's also an interoception piece. Interoception is your ability to sense internal bodily states. When that channel is noisy or underread, it gets harder to register enoughness, fullness, or fatigue clearly. So you may know intellectually that you've done a lot, while your body keeps sending unfinished. Then the inner critic joins in, not because it enjoys hurting you, because it learned that pressure can produce action, and action once reduced risk. In a very real way, self-criticism can function like an internal alarm system, loud, repetitive, exhausting, still organized around protection. At work, this can look like sending one extra email at 11:40 p.m. You already finished the project. Your manager said it was solid, but your chest stays tight until you add another clarification. Polish one paragraph, check one more spreadsheet. Sleep gets traded for temporary relief. In intimate relationships, you may become the person who remembers every detail. Birthdays, groceries, emotional weather. The awkward text that needs smoothing over. You keep the bond running. Then a small silence from the other person can make your whole body feel like you missed something crucial. In family systems, this often shows up as being the reliable one. You answer quickly, organize plans, absorb tension, stay reasonable. Everyone benefits from your steadiness. But after the call, you replay your tone, your timing, your wording, and wonder why helping still leaves guilt behind. With friendships, the pattern can look soft and invisible. You draft careful messages, apologize for being busy, worry that a delayed reply means distance, then compensate by being extra available. You call it being thoughtful. Underneath, your system may be trying to secure closeness through over-attunement. The first refrain is simple. Your feeling is real. Your first interpretation might not be. Feeling like you didn't do enough does not automatically mean you actually fell short. Sometimes it means your threat system still hasn't updated after the task is done. A practical step this week is to name the category before you obey it. Ask, is this unfinished work? Or unfinished activation? Write the answer down. If the task is complete but your body is revving, that distinction matters. It keeps anxiety from masquerading as objective truth. Another practice is a 2-minute completion ritual. Feet on the floor, longer exhale than inhale.
Then list 3 concrete facts. What got done? What can wait? What would count as enough for today? Regulate first, interpret second, decide third. That order changes a lot.
One thing becomes very clear. The people who carry this pattern are rarely undercommitted. Usually, they are exquisitely responsive. They notice, anticipate, and compensate fast. They are often the person others lean on, so they assume the problem is excess caring and miss the fear underneath. You may also have a strange relationship with praise. You want it. Then when it arrives, it slides off. The compliment meets a wall of internal qualifiers. They were just being nice. They didn't see the flawed part. Next time we'll reveal the truth. So affirmation never gets stored. A lot of high-functioning adults live with that moving target for years. They keep becoming more capable while feeling less settled. Outsiders admire the output. Privately, life feels like an endless series of small catches just before something falls. That gap between appearance and experience can feel lonely. The thing is, this pattern often hides inside traits people celebrate: reliability, conscientiousness, emotional intelligence, leadership. Those qualities are real. They can also become camouflage. When competence gets rewarded early, very few people ask what it costs your body to stay that organized. You might notice rest feels oddly guilty unless it has been earned past the point of exhaustion. A quiet afternoon can make your mind produce a backlog of invisible debts. Calls you should make, improvements you should start. The body interprets stillness as exposure, so leisure becomes hard to inhabit. Conflict can trigger the same machinery. A tense meeting, a brief change in tone, an unanswered message. Hours later, your mind is still building repair plans. You rehearse explanations, stack evidence, rewrite sentences. The original moment may have been small. Your system treats it like a widening crack. Sleep gets involved too. Night removes distraction, and unfinished activation grows louder in the dark. Suddenly, your brain wants to conduct a full audit of the day. What you missed, what you forgot, what someone might have meant. Fatigue does not switch the process off. It can intensify it. Years around this pattern have taught one tender thing. Many people who feel chronically insufficient were trained, directly or indirectly, to outrun vulnerability with usefulness. If they stayed prepared, pleasing, productive, or low maintenance, life worked a little better. Of course, that strategy stayed. That is why shame usually backfires. If you call yourself dramatic, needy, obsessive, or impossible to satisfy, the system hears more danger and doubles down. Pressure increases pressure. Harshness increases monitoring. Change begins when the pattern becomes legible enough that you no longer confuse protection with identity. You do not need to become careless to heal this. You do not need to stop caring, stop trying, or become indifferent to quality. What helps is building the missing bridge between completion and felt safety. Enough has to be practiced as a body experience, not argued as an idea. Sometimes that means letting one email stay slightly less polished. Sometimes it means leaving a message unanswered until morning and surviving the discomfort. Sometimes it means noticing the urge to explain yourself perfectly and choosing one clear sentence instead. Small experiments teach the body what logic cannot. Sensitivity is not fragility, it's bandwidth. So if you tend to notice a lot, feel a lot, and carry a lot, the task is not reducing yourself into numb efficiency. The task is learning which signals deserve action and which signals simply need soothing, witness, and time. If this landed somewhere tender, you probably do not need more pressure tonight. You may need one honest sentence. Maybe it's this one: I finished the task, but my body did not register finished. Take a breath, name the pattern, and I'll see you in the next one. Be specific.